voting began early this morning for Americans in 15 states, each picking their top candidate to lead the parties into the next election. While experts are watching closely to see what voters are prioritizing, the race itself isn't very contested. With every state counting ballots, it becomes more and more likely we'll see President Joe Biden face off against his predecessor, Donald Trump, once again. A big win for Trump today could put the nomination within his grasp.
I want to vote for Trump because I think he's conservative, he was pro-life, and I think he did a whole lot for the country when he was president.
Well, I'm going to vote for anybody who says they're closing the border. That's my issue.
When he was in office last time, he made the economy better and prices were down. So, you know, a little common sense will tell you that Biden's ruining the country by being in office. He's too old to be in office.
U.S. voters have been lined up to cast their ballot since around 7 this morning in states like North Carolina and Texas. They'll pick who they want to lead the Republican Party, and the vast majority are expected to pick Trump. His only challenger, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, is trailing behind him in the polls, winning just one primary vote so far in D.C.
I have a lot of problems with President Trump, and so I wanted to vote for someone that, well, Nikki Haley was the only choice on the ballot that wasn't him.
Well, Trump cannot win enough delegates today to formally clinch the nomination. Another dominant performance would essentially end any suspense in this race. Super Tuesday awards around a third of Republican delegates up for grabs, and a candidate needs to get more than 70% of them to be a nominee. All of this comes in spite of the 4 criminal and 4 civil cases Trump is currently dealing with in the courts, something voters were concerned about.
He's got so many criminal things against him. How can you bring someone in that's done criminal things? And we ask people, what has he done, or what did he do for our country when he was here? What did he do? I don't know of anything he did.
But the Supreme Court has just given Trump a boost. Justices agreed to rule on whether Trump and other presidents should be immune from criminal prosecution once out of office, effectively delaying any trials he's facing until after the November election. The U.S. top court also ruled that the former president could not be removed from the ballot, going against a decision from a Colorado court that booted him for his actions during the January 6, 2021 insurrection on the Capitol.
I like the ruling because I think that would maybe set, regardless of this situation, it sets a weird precedent that one state could decide for the rest of the country who can and cannot be president, which I think could hurt anybody from any political persuasion down the road.
On the other side of the aisle, the primaries are expected to be a walk in the park for Biden, who has no real challengers. But that doesn't stop some Democrat voters from worrying about his age. The president is currently 81 years old.
Yes, he is old, but he's not crazy and he's not dangerous. And I am worried about our country if Trump wins.
Votes must be cast by 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight in the final states. For more insight into voting this Super Tuesday, we're joined by Renan Levine, who teaches politics at the University of Toronto, Scarborough. Renan, it's one of the most important days in the 2024 election so far. What are you going to be watching for today?
Well, Super Tuesday, for someone who studies U.S. politics and votes in the U.S., is usually one of the most exciting times, but not in 2024, because you have 2 very, very strong front runners. And so unlike 4 years ago, when the big question was, well, who will emerge from at least one party, right? And this year is very unusual in that both parties have such strong front runners. So to be honest, there's not a lot to be looking for, right?
We saw Republican challenger Nikki Haley win her first state primary this week. Can she gain traction today, and will she end her campaign if she can't?
She says she's not going to stop campaigning, and that's in part because of these unusual dynamics. Like, well, first of all, what else is she going to do? And second of all, right, she is the Trump alternative. So a couple of weeks ago, right, in Michigan, a number of Democrats voted uncommitted rather than cast votes for the presumptive nominee, Joe Biden. So Nikki Haley is trying to be a step above that indicator of uncommitted, but there is perhaps some strategy. This week, the United States Supreme Court said that the states cannot remove Donald Trump from the ballot because of January 6th, 2021. So that might have been one chance for Nikki Haley to assert herself. But of course, all of the criminal cases for Donald Trump are still ongoing. And it seems at this point, the main reason why Nikki Haley is around is so that there is a candidate should Donald Trump not be able to continue, and she would like to be that candidate.
We've seen Democrat voters write uncommitted on their ballots to protest President Biden's support of Israel in the war. Do you see this happening again, and how much will it impact Biden's re-election campaign?
I don't anticipate it having much of an impact today. The dynamics where that happened was in Michigan, and Michigan is home to one of the largest percentage, as a percentage of the population, of Arab Americans in the United States. It also, even though, of course, the press was quick to pick up, oh, this was about the war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, the reality was that it wasn't much higher than the percentage of the vote that voted uncommitted when Obama ran for re-election in 2012. So there will always be, especially this time of year, voters that say, hey, I would like to send a message to the White House that there's things that I don't love what's going on, and it could be any number of reasons. Too moderate, too far to the left, right? Too supportive of Israel, not supportive of Israel enough.
It looks more and more like we'll be seeing a rematch between Biden and Trump in the November election. Of course, Trump lost last time, but what's the difference for him this time around?
Well, Biden's older. Trump's also older, but a number of voters, including a lot of Democrats, are expressing concern about Joe Biden's age. We have to remember that the 2020 election was really fought under the shadow of COVID. And the COVID virus is certainly still around and still very much an impact on all of us. But it's not affecting life the same way that it did in 2020. And therefore, it's not affecting the way people campaign like it did 4 years ago. Like, we need to remember that right at the height of the campaign, Donald Trump was hospitalized with COVID. But also, there are some voters who are telling pollsters that for 4 years of Biden, they may actually even be a little nostalgic for Donald Trump. So Biden, because he won 4 years ago, in many ways, though, still has the easiest task, which is persuading voters who already voted for him once to vote for him again.
Thanks so much for your insights today, Renan.
My pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.